Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. This is a place of inspiration, education, and hope for a kinder, healthier, and more sustainable world. On this program, we have conversations with international and local thought leaders, helping all of us find solutions to the toughest health challenges we're facing today. But before going any further, I'd like to give thanks to our wonderful show sponsor, New Roots Herbal, who's been making this show possible for the past 3 years. It's been amazing. To learn more about their incredible line of products, visit newrootsherbal.com. And be sure to join us next time when we'll have the privilege of hearing from leading integrative cancer researcher and author, Dr. Paul Anderson, talking about cutting-edge cancer therapies and also ways to address common problems associated with the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation. He is so empowering. You are going to love him, and you probably already know about him. You've probably seen him on just about every documentary about this topic. He's a really leading voice in this. Anyway, it's going to be a show you're going to want to hear, but also you're going to want to share this with those you love, especially anyone whose life has been touched by cancer. And, you know, a lot of times people say, I have to work at that time when the show is airing. No worries ever. If you're unable to listen in, to sign in or whatever to the show when it's live on the air, you can always hear the recordings of all of my shows, learn more about our fabulous guests. Literally every guest since, 2016 when I started the show, and access tons of free wellness resources anytime on my website at TheresaNicassio.com, and that's Theresa with an H, Theresa, N like Nancy, ICASS, like Sam, IO as in octopus.com. That hub I've been working on for, 4 years now, and making a place so that anybody can access free wellness information, whether it's about psychology, health, sustainably, parenting, all that good stuff. And during times like we are now, these turbulent times, I always like to dedicate shows to people, and this is a very heartfelt dedication today, as they all are in different ways. But I'd like to dedicate today's program to every one of you who have lost someone you love, whether from the coronavirus or any other cause. Grieving is hard enough during the best of times, normal conditions, whatever normal is, but these unprecedented times are even more difficult. So on that note, and when I was working on planning for the shows, I thought that today's show and guest would be particularly timely to help you lift your spirits, as we are blessed to have with us my beloved friend and fellow psychologist and former classmate way from graduate school. Love him, Dr. Roger Hall, and he's going to be talking about happiness. How timely is this? We really need this about now. Roger is a deeply compassionate and articulate author and speaker, and he recently published a fantastic self-help book called Staying Happy, Being Productive. Anyway, this book offers practical tools and techniques to help you make improvements in your life by addressing one thing at a time. And this is unlike any other self-help book you're going to find. This book is really Roger, and as you're going to hear him today, you're going to see how he gets the complex and really data-based, research-based information and from psychology, positive psychology, and anywhere in between, CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, all kinds of things, neuroscience research, and then he condenses it, and he makes it so simple, and he makes it make sense. So it's really, it's not a fluff book, even though the topic, stay happy, being productive, you may think, oh, yeah, that's just another one of those. This is not. Again, as you're going to see, as we talk with Roger today, and he's going to be here to share with us some of his hot tips, and I hope you really enjoyed chatting with him, with me. Thank you so much for taking time from your crazy busy schedule to join us today, Roger.
Oh, Theresa, I'm so glad to talk to you again.
Yeah, I just love who you are. I've always loved who you are. What was it, 1986, I think, is when we first
86.
met in our program. I guess I'm aging us. That's okay. And you emanate such an amazing energy, and you always make people feel good about who they are. I always appreciated your presence and during graduate school and beyond. But for sharing, I always love to start with, the big fat why. What led you into this world, and even specifically in this case to study happiness? How did you land here?
Well, like a lot of my career, it was a series of bad decisions that got me here. When we were in graduate school, everyone got really excited about dealing with really deep psychopathology, and I was not initially interested in that, but got caught up in the sway, and then started doing a pretty solid clinical practice, and I realized how unhappy it made me, knowing how I'm put together. I'm just not really very well wired to do that sort of deep clinical work, and so at one point in my career I switched to do executive coaching work. But in that transition, I realized that when I looked at successful people, their habits were fundamentally different than the habits of the people I was working with. Mm-hmm. And it's not that you just stop doing the wrong things, but in order to be happy, you have to start doing a lot of other things. And so I kind of came up with a little mantra. It's the habits of health are fundamentally different than the habits of disease. So I started to look at what makes these successful people different. And I define success maybe differently than a lot of other people. Immediately people go to money and think that that's what I'm talking about. And I think that's a factor. It's one of the 10 things. But it's usually a side effect rather than a purpose. As I looked at these successful people, they're people who had good relationships, they had good mood, they had productive work, purpose-filled lives. I started to look at the habits that they had, and that's kind of the genesis of this book. It kind of, I kept adding, one thing to another until I got to 10 things and said, boy, I better cut this off or I'm going to end up with 100.
Well, it kind of reminds me of that Stephen Covey's book, right? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which many of you have, I'm sure, heard of. But you're which I think I love. I think it's a great book as well. He has got some great concepts. But you take a very interesting, very holistic approach. It's a bit different than Covey's book. Can you talk a little bit about that and this holistic approach, which you don't really use that word, I don't think. I mean, I did write some words about this your book in the front of the book, which I love to be able to share that. But for me, it does have a holistic quality. So there's a bit to that where that you're saying you're going through, and it's like one thing after another. You got up to 10. How did those come forward for you, and that clarity as you're so good at putting things together?
Yeah. I mean, it really was. It really was organic. It's not that I said I need to come up with 10 things, but I started watching successful people and what they did, and then I kind of kept a list. And it is. I probably don't use the word holistic, but when people ask me about my coaching approach, I always say I take a whole life approach. Mm-hmm. And if you're having trouble at home, you're going to have trouble at work. And if you're having trouble at work, you're going to have trouble at home. Mm-hmm. And we like to think we can block off certain aspects or pieces of our life, but we're one person in different places. So for me, health and happiness and success really are about being an integrated person. Mm-hmm. I created this list so that the 10 things are first thought life, and to me, given that I'm a psychologist and tend to focus that way, that to me is the cornerstone piece. Then there is exercise life, and then the third is nutritional life. And people ask me all the time, well, why don't you just say health life? Why do you split it up between exercise and nutrition, but just don't say health in general? Well, there are lots of people who have health challenges that are completely unrelated to things that they can control. If they're injured, hit by a car or contract malaria, these are things that are not in their control. But I'm really focused on this, and successful people have lots of things that they don't control. But they can control their exercise, and they can control their nutrition. So
that's a great point.
Even if you've been disabled, you can still choose what fuel you're going to put in your system and how you're going to use the parts of you, parts of your body that are still fully functional to stay fit. And so it really is about things that they have influence on rather than, getting bit by a mosquito and getting sleeping sickness. So the first is thought life, second is exercise life, third is nutritional life. And I would say real quickly that in terms of nutritional life, people in North America are overfed and undernourished, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, Theresa, and we can return to that. The next two kind of hang together. So the fourth one is love life. And when I say love life, people think you mean romantic relationships. And yes, I do mean romantic relationships, but I also mean those primary relationships of the home. So if I was to count up, my love life, it would be all of the people in my immediate family. So if you're talking about spouse, you're talking about children, you're talking about siblings, you're talking about parents. And if you're having trouble in those relationships, if you're worried about your kid getting arrested, you're not going to be able to focus on, other areas of your life really well. And then the fifth one is social life. And this is, do you have a set of friends who can support you? With the entrepreneurs I work with the professionals I work with, this seems to be one of the biggest gaps. They've got a great primary family relationship, but they don't have friends. And as I look at this is, I think, a problem in North America. The next one is work life. If we look at the study, the Harvard study of men that started in the 1940s, in his book Triumph of Experience, one of the curators of that study, George Valent, said, the two essential things he found were happiness were related to the love of your work and having love in your life. So primary love relationship and the love and enjoyment of your work. And so when I meet people who say, I've got 3,482 days until I retire, I feel very sorry for them because we tend to be happy if we have productive, meaningful work that we find challenging and can get into flow. The next is money life, and I think people lie when they say money can buy you happiness. I don't think money can buy you happiness, but I also think money can help you avoid a lot of misery. So it won't bring you happiness, but it'll help you avoid misery. So if you're If you have no money, you can't buy food, you don't have a place to live, that's pretty miserable.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're seeing with during these times, the COVID times, a lot of people have been hit really hard on that as well, right? The realities of the bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy.
Right. So you need money, but then I see that there's a certain sweet spot of enough money, and then you get to people who have too much money problems. So you have lack of money problems, and you have too much money problems, and that scale is different for everybody. And so I tell people you need to figure out where on that sweet spot works for you. You know, Warren Buffett, you know, he's got billions. He probably doesn't have too much money problems because he knows how to handle it. I might not be able to handle that much money. And so I've got to figure out what's the sweet spot for me where I have enough money, but I don't have so much money that it creates problems for me.
Right.
The next one is sleep and rest life. And this, to me, is the easiest intervention people can have, is get a handle on your sleep. About 15 years ago, I read a book called The Promise of Sleep, and it was one of those books that scared me into going to sleep. You know, we all read those stories that keep us awake. Well, this is, I mean, you know, I'd read this book and I'd close it and I gotta go to bed. And
that's so funny.
As I have taken control of my sleep, I have found that it is a cornerstone habit for improving your life. And I could get all nerdy about that, but I won't right now. But related to that is rest, and rest is doing nothing. Very often people think rest is watching TV. No, that's the next thing, which is recreational life. We all need a recreational life, but rest and recreation are different. Rest is doing nothing. And so if we talk to people who do mindfulness, quiet contemplation, have a time of quiet reflection, or, you know, in some parts of the country they call it pondering. It doesn't really matter what you call it, but it's that time when you're doing nothing, sitting on your back porch, looking at the trees. That's really good for you. And many people have difficulty doing nothing, and I'm one of them. So it's a discipline I need to do. The next one is recreational life. It's having fun. I meet so many people who think they're successful because they have money, they have position, they have power, but doggone it, they don't know how to have fun.
Right.
And fun really is important. So I encourage people to work on that in their life. And the last one is spiritual life. You know, the research in the positive psychology movement has been clear that the quality of people's lives is better if they have an active spiritual practice. If they're part of an organized religious tradition, they tend to have better lives than people who don't.
Yeah.
And two of the authors in that arena are agnostic, and they have said, hey, I just can't and don't believe, and so I need to work on the other areas of my life. And I respect that. And so if you're one of those people for whom that's not something you can intellectually assent to, then realize you need to work on the other areas.
And I think, you know, I like to think about spirituality as more, it's really about meaning, finding meaning, and so it doesn't have to be linked with a religious belief system, but some sort of sense of meaning, connection, and in particular, I think service is a part of that. So service to something that's bigger than yourself, whether it's community or whether it is in, you know, some sort of specifically religious ideology. So it's a beautiful opportunity that you know, for those of you who you know, you hear the word spiritual or religious, it's, you know, get a little triggered. I get that. But for me, what I've done is I've just translate that to meaning, and you know, whether it's, you know, choosing to be kind and finding ways to reduce suffering in the world, or care for animals or the environment, or something again that's bigger than you. This is such a great list, and but not just the list. I really love what you did with the list, and I was thinking about you know, one specific thing before we're going to be going to break shortly, but to give you guys an example of this book, I'm open up here, page 25. When he says things that you'll go, what? The helpfulness of the illusion of control. When would an illusion of control be useful? And so you can get pulled into this, and then as Roger talks about it, you literally feel like he's talking with you. And do you want to talk a little bit about the illusion of control? I realize that we'll be having to carry it on shortly. We'll have a brief start to it, but just a little bit about this, Roger.
Yeah. Successful people, even if they don't have control, they believe they have control. And I read a study about a finger tapping exercise. They put people in a room in front of a wooden box with a light bulb on it, and they said, tap out a pattern and the light bulb will come on. Mm-hmm. And pretty soon, some of the people realized it didn't matter how they tapped, the light bulb came on randomly. And it did. And the other people had this illusion of control, and they just kept at it, and they persisted and persisted. And so after the break, I'll come back and tell you a real-life example of how that persistence will help you.
Fantastic. All right, folks, stick around, and we're going to hear you more about that persistence. We're going to hear about optimism and pessimism, and research about it. We're going to be hearing about a lot more things about thoughts from Dr. Roger Hall when we come back. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Acidophilus Ultra from New Roots Herbal is your go-to product for great health. To maintain potency, Acidophilus Ultra is protected by a natural water-based enteric coating. This daily probiotic supports your health in so many ways. It helps boost your immune system, aids digestion and bloating, and that's just for starters. So remember the name, Acidophilus Ultra from New Roots Herbal. Get some now. To find a store near you, visit newrootsherbal.com. That's newrootsherbal.com.
Audiobooks gives you instant access to over 50,000 of the best sellers and hottest book titles in romance, mystery, fiction, and many other genres. Just visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Audiobooks to get started.
YumFoodForLiving.com is the place to get easy, allergy-free recipes, all free of sugar, gluten, and dairy. But that's not all you'll get when you visit YumFoodForLiving.com. You'll get resources for all kinds of things like wellness articles, videos, podcasts, the blog, all to help you create easy, healthy living. There's even a 50-page downloadable book introducing you to the philosophy of Yum. Don't wait. Visit YumFoodForLiving.com. YumFoodForLiving.com. That's YumFoodForLiving.com.
If you like to spend your television viewing time learning about some of the things that you may have missed in history class, or if history was your favorite subject, then you should check out the link to the History Channel on the HealthyLife.net advertiser page. Order DVD sets by series or by subject matter right from our homepage while you still enjoy your favorite HealthyLife.net show.
Being inspired by a speaker while learning everyday positive information that you can use to help your life is exactly what Dr. Theresa Nicassio does when she speaks in front of your group. From healthcare professionals to special needs parenting and everything in between, Dr. Theresa Nicassio can customize topics for your group on everything from health to psychology. To book Dr. Theresa Nicassio as a speaker for your group, visit YumFoodForLiving.com or call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
You're listening to HealthyLife.net, the radio network that brings positive talk with positive change to make your world a little better.
Welcome back to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. If you're just tuning in, you're here with business psychologist and good friend of mine, author and speaker, Dr. Roger Hall. He's talking about practical strategies to be happy. And just before the break, we started talking a little bit about illusions, delusions, and how, where we put our thoughts and the impact of those on our happiness. So Roger, carry on with where we left off.
Yeah, so we stopped with when we were talking about people who were doing this finger tapping exercise, and there was a subset of people who kept tapping on this wooden box to get the light bulb to go on, and they persisted forever. Well, you look at it and you think, well, that seems kind of stupid. Why would you do that? Well, I give a real-life example in the book, and this happened probably almost 20 years ago, before we had smartphones. I had my first, cell phone, a flip phone, and there were still telephone books. But I was in the Chicago O'Hare Airport, and I've got to get to Grand Rapids the next morning. I've got an 8 a.m. Appointment, and I'm looking out the window, and there's no airplane. And so I walk up to the desk, and we're supposed to be taking off in about 10 minutes. There's no airplane. I walk up to the gate counter. I stand in line, and he gets on the announcement, and it says, flight number such and such to Grand Rapids has been canceled. Come to the ticket counter for rebooking and hotel accommodations. There are further flights leaving tonight, but all are overbooked. And so I'm like third in line, and the first guy says, book me on the next flight out. And he says, they're already oversold by 7. And he said, I'll take it. And so he's 7 for standby. And the woman in front of me says, I'll take it. And she's 8 for standby. And he looks at me and says, dude, get a hotel. And I said, give me 9 for standby. And so then I start getting on the phone and thinking, okay, I got to get to Grand Rapids. So I start calling rental car companies. No cars. I mean, I call Avis, I call Hertz, I actually called Rent-A-Wreck. And I couldn't get a car to Grand Rapids. And I think, well, I've only got to get, I only need 4 wheels, And so I start calling trucking companies to see if I can rent a panel van. And then eventually I'm getting to the point where I think, well, maybe I can call U-Haul, and I can get a bunch of us. And I have this vision of me in the back of a U-Haul with a polka band, those of you who've watched Home Alone. And then I think, I start calling limo companies, and my battery is going out, and all of this time I'm thinking, everyone else in line has gotten their rebooking his hotel accommodations. They're back in the hotel. They're having their warm cookie. They're watching HBO. And I'm still dialing to get out of Chicago, and I can't. And finally I'm about to give up, and I walk up to the ticket counter. Everybody has been rebooked. Everybody has gone to the hotel, and a new gate agent comes on. And I say, this guy's been telling me there's no way I'm getting out of Chicago tonight on the next flight. Is there any way I can get out of here? And he goes, well, let me check. And he click it. And he goes, I guarantee you'll be on the next flight. And I said, I'm like 8. One of the people quit and went to the hotel. And I said, well, I'm 8 for standby. And he says, well, there are 3 flights coming in, all delayed. So there are 25 people who will not make this flight. I guarantee you will get on this flight. And so here's the illusion of control. What did I do? I tried all of these things to put this getting to Grand Rapids in my control, none of which worked. But the illusion of control kept me in the game long enough that I could take advantage of when the rules changed. And that's why the illusion of control is helpful, because it keeps you persistent and it keeps you in the game long enough to take advantage of changes. All those people who are eating their warm cookie and watching HBO had no chance to get on that flight, but because I stuck around and tried, even though I had no control, it kept me in a spot that I could then take advantage of the change.
So, in a way, that delusion, I call it delusion, not just delusion, it really helps us to be persistent. It also helps to offset the whole concept of helplessness and hopelessness, which, as most of you listening know, those are some of the features of depression. And so it has a real self-protective, psychological self-protective mechanism, doesn't it, Roger?
It absolutely does. And, you know, in my conception of learned helplessness, it's fear. And if you look at the studies, that there's a component of fear and the conception that you are trapped. Mm-hmm. And so I had a legitimate fear that I wouldn't get to Grand Rapids, but I didn't feel trapped. Mm-hmm. I still believed there was a way for me to get out.
Yeah.
And as long as I keep that idea, then I can keep hope alive.
Yes. And I don't know if you know about this, but I didn't learn till like maybe 10 years ago about the learned helplessness study with the dogs in cages, which people listening, it's a very horrible study. They had dogs in cages, and they would send electric shock on the bottom of the cage, and they made it so the dogs could not escape. And the dogs went psycho. They went crazy trying to escape, crying and jumping out and just like going crazy. But what they found was then they kept shocking these poor dogs. And then even when they made it so the dogs could escape, the dogs just laid down and would get shocked. But so we knew that. But I don't know if you know the other part of the story, Roger, where it turns out there were some outliers. There were some outliers that they threw out the data because it didn't fit in, but it turns out there were actually like a handful. There were some dogs who for some reason never stopped trying. And, I'm forgetting, Bill O'Hanlon, it's where I learned about it. I was at a course with him. And he was saying, those are the dogs we need to study. What is it about those dogs that kept them, doing that, so that when things did open up, then they were able to escape, just like you were at the airport. And so this is really, I think, part of this is a big takeaway, people, as you're listening, is what we do with our mind really matters. And Dr. Norm Admonson, he talks about the crisis of creativity. That's usually what brings people to therapy or getting psychologically not well, is that once we lose that possibility thinking and that creative mind, that's when we really need help. And so helping us move to that place of creativity and possibility.
And sometimes it doesn't feel like creativity. It just feels like desperation. But sometimes that sense of desperation is enough to keep you in. And very often we see really creative endeavors come out of of a strong necessity. The old cliche, necessity is the mother of invention.
Absolutely. And so, we're going to be coming back and hearing more, some wonderful things from Roger and his one thing at a time hot tip to flesh that out to help you all. But I really want you all to walk away with this notion that whenever you feel stuck, it doesn't mean that necessarily you're going to figure out what the answer is, but that there is power in perseverance, and that sometimes surprises come up that you never would have expected, just like in this fabulous story. So stick around, guys. We're going to hear more from my good friend Roger, Dr. Roger Hall, when we come back.
There's a book that makes it so easy to embrace a healthy, gluten-free lifestyle, even kids will like it. Filled with heartwarming stories, food as medicine health tips, easy allergy-free recipes, and creative culinary inventions, the award-winning book Yum by Dr. Theresa Nicassio is your source for all of this and more. So make gluten-free living easy, tasty, and fun. Get Yum, plant-based recipes for a gluten-free diet at Amazon.com, or visit yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
You have too little time to shop, so try Farm Fresh to You. They deliver organic food the way nature intended, delivered straight to your home or office, economically. Visit our web advertiser page and click on Farm Fresh to You now.
When you have a food allergy or dietary limitation, Dr. Theresa Nicassio knows it's hard to give up the foods you love, so she decided to put on her chef hat and give you affordable, personalized culinary consultations that will light up your taste buds. You'll explore substitute ingredients so you can enjoy your favorite foods again. She'll even help you make food preparation easy and guide you on your path to healthy living. And to get started, all you have to do is call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
If you're not in the U.S., listen up. SureTrader is one of the most trusted and reliable names in share trading. With 6-to-1 leverage and other perks, SureTrade is the best for penny stocks and day trades. To find out more, visit our advertiser page and click on the SureTrader banner.
YumFoodForLiving.com is the place to get easy, allergy-free recipes, all free of sugar, gluten, and dairy. But that's not all you'll get when you visit YumFoodForLiving.com. You'll get resources for all kinds of things like wellness articles, videos, podcasts, a blog, all to help you create easy, healthy living. There's even a 50-page downloadable book introducing you to the philosophy of Yum. Don't wait. Visit YumFoodForLiving.com. YumFoodForLiving.com. That's YumFoodForLiving.com.
HealthyLife.net, the positive radio network.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. Here today with the author of Staying Happy, Being Productive, talking about the habits of health and happiness. And we were just talking about the power of thought, power of persistence to create opportunities that maybe otherwise might not be there. Sometimes people might confuse it with what some people call the law of attraction, which just so you guys know, it's not a law, but possibilities are. That's a whole other conversation. But one of the things that Roger and I were talking about prior to the show was, and it's a big part of this book, was how overwhelming this can be. Even Roger gave like these 10 notions, these 10 elements of how to be happy, basically, the habits of people who tend to be happy. These are the 10 areas. And you may be listening going, oh my God, that's just so much. I've got some major, what do you call that, an extreme makeover to do. And so share with our listeners, if you would, Roger, about, how you like to respond to that and help guide people and move them from that place of overwhelm to empowerment and excitement.
Yeah, the summary comment is just do one thing. Just focus on one thing. And the example I give is that humans aren't that much different than animals. And if you've ever been to the circus and seen a lion tamer, the lion tamer takes two things into the cage when he or she is dealing with a lion. So first is a whip. That completely makes sense. But what's the other thing, Theresa, that the lion tamer takes into the cage?
Food.
Nope.
No?
A chair. You've seen it, right? You've seen him take a chair in. Have you ever noticed
a chair.
That?
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, why is it that they take a chair in? Now, the next part may not be true, but it's such a good story I tell it anyway, which is that a lion knows what to do with one stick pointing at its face. It bats it away. Two sticks, bats it away.
Right.
But four confuses it enough that it kind of gets paralyzed and doesn't know what to do, and that's why they use it. And so here's the thing. Humans aren't that much different. If I give you one thing to do, you're probably going to complete it. But if I give you four things to change at once, you're going to get bogged down. Mm-hmm. And so I encourage people, choose one thing at a time. There's a great book called Willpower by Roy Baumeister and John Tierney. And in it, they talk about what's called a cornerstone habit. And they say if you choose one thing to change and get really, really good at that, then once that becomes a part of your lifestyle, and only then you add the next thing. And so I've got 10 things on the list, but heaven help you if you try to do all 10. Choose the one area, and here's how I would choose it. Either choose the area that'll be an easy win, the one that you're pretty sure you could get done, or the one that is the most troubling to you. Now, if it's the most troubling to you and it might not be an easy win, it'll take longer. But once you get the new habits formulated, that can become your cornerstone habit.
Mm-hmm. And give you that sense of relief, too, a big fat reward, huh?
Oh, it's an enormous reward. And then once you feel this sense of efficacy of your ability to change this one area, then you think, okay, I'm a rock star. I can do this. I can do another thing. And so it's just one thing at a time. And so, for my own development, I worked very hard on sleep. And then I look at my life and I evaluate my life, on a regular basis. And if you want to do it on those 10 things, there's a PDF download on my website that you can download for free, and you can evaluate yourself, kind of where am I on all these 10 things, and then you can decide, okay, this is the one I want to work on.
I love that. And the parallel I choose with clients is, if you've got one or two dishes in the sink, it's easy to do. But if you have a pile of dishes, it's like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed that it is paralyzing. And so the assignment I give, and whether it's specifically, usually it's not specifically about doing dishes, although occasionally it is that say just wash one dish. Just wash one dish. And there's something about when you start to wash that one dish, as from that very paradoxical, you've gotten over the hump of actually doing any, and then suddenly it's like, well, it's easy to then it's hard to actually walk away with just doing one. You might do 2, 3, 4, or maybe it just starts to reinforce itself, and you end up cleaning out that sink.
That's a great example.
Yeah, and my book Yum, I talk a lot about in the front of the book how to use the book, and it's the exact same concept. Basically, choose one new recipe that excites you, and master that. Have fun with it, enjoy it, and then it's not about shoulds. It's about what draws you, and whether it is the easiest or the most exciting or whatever it is that makes you choose it. But just focus on that one thing, and when you do it for 30 days, it starts to become a habit. Within 3 to 4 months, it's in you, and then you go to what else draws me? Is there another? Oh, that one looks yummo. I really want that yummy dessert. I'm going to learn that. So you do one at a time, and before you know it, the balance has shifted. The whole scale has shifted to a place of deliciousness, empowerment, and that you're doing more of the things, more of the habits that you were hoping you could do.
Well, as an example from your book, we use your kale chip recipe like crazy. We use
the deluxe kale chips.
Oh yes, your recipe is awesome.
Like people call them crack chips. I've had someone call them crack chips.
Yes, they are. Yes, we have kale in the garden, and we'll eat most of it via your chip recipe. Yes.
Yeah, it's really delish. And so that idea of as you're listening, it kind of even goes to even the Buddhist concept of the next right action, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed. But even any other time, you just say, what is the next right action? And you choose one action. You choose one item to do, as opposed to feeling like you got a whole 4 chair legs poking at you. Excellent. So there's something that I'm really curious if you could our people about. May not be able to before our break here, but actually maybe we'll start in the next segment talking about the difference between happiness and joy. I want to hear you talk more about that.
Sure.
And we'll be hearing more about happiness and productivity and just feeling better about life with Dr. Roger Hall when we come back.
Acidophilus Ultra from New Roots Herbal is your go-to product for great health. To maintain potency, Acidophilus Ultra is protected by a natural water-based enteric coating. This daily probiotic supports your health in so many ways. It helps boost your immune system, aids digestion and bloating, and that's just for starters. So remember the name, Acidophilus Ultra from New Roots Herbal. Get some now. To find a store near you, visit newrootsherbal.com. That's newrootsherbal.com.
VMware is a fresh perspective for virtualization on the cloud. Shaping the future, this all-in-one platform delivers virtual cloud service on any cloud. Visit our HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on VMware.
When you have a food allergy or dietary limitation, Dr. Theresa Nicassio knows it's hard to give up the foods you love, so she decided to put on her chef hat and give you affordable, personalized culinary consultations that will light up your taste buds. You'll explore substitute ingredients so you can enjoy your favorite foods again. She'll even help you make food preparation easy and guide you on your path to healthy living. And to get started, all you have to do is call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
For the best in business class travel, count on Cheapo Air. Cheapo Air has the best price guarantee, 24/7 customer service, and easy booking online or by phone. To experience your hassle-free journey, start by going to HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Cheapo Air.
There's a book that makes it so easy to embrace a healthy, gluten-free lifestyle, even kids will like it. Filled with heartwarming stories, food as medicine health tips, easy allergy-free recipes, and creative culinary inventions, the award-winning book Yum by Dr. Theresa Nicassio is your source for all of this and more. So make gluten-free living easy, tasty, and fun. Get Yum, plant-based recipes for a gluten-free diet at Amazon.com or visit yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
Radio your way. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back to the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. We're here today with Dr. Roger Hall, who has over 25 years' experience as a business psychologist and executive coach. And he's here sharing discoveries about practical strategies to be healthy and productive by harnessing your habits and your thoughts. And as I mentioned before, Roger and I have been good friends since 1986. We were classmates at the Ohio State University in our graduate school, studying to be psychologists together. And Roger is always just sunshine in any gray day. So how beautiful that he's written a book about happiness, because he really is a living example of it. And one of the things that I'd love you to talk about, as I mentioned before the break, Roger, is this. You have a distinction. You like to talk about the difference between happiness and joy, and I'm hoping you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. I've had it, crawling around in the back of my head for probably about 15 years that those are two different things. And I had the good fortune of being hired by a financial services company to do research on that exact same topic. And so this last year, I did a lot of, academic research on the difference between happiness and joy. And as it turns out, there's a body of literature. And if we look at happiness, that could be translated to kind of general life satisfaction. So happiness is sort of that even state of euthymia or a positive mood over a long period of time. But it appears that the way the researchers look at joy is that this is a transient experience. And the best way I can describe it is if you're watching a football game and the running back dives into the end zone and he and his teammates have this end zone celebration. That is an expression of joy. And if we look at this, and you can read more about it in the book Positivity, and in it, the idea is that the more of these positive joy experiences you have helps you to actually recover from bad things. So that joy and positive emotions, it's called the broaden and build model, so that we actually see people who experience more of these transient periods of joy actually have greater resilience, are more creative, and are able to recover from things more quickly. So if we look at people who are happy, people who are resilient, they do have these regular transient experiences of joy. You know, those in-zone celebrations, dancing for joy, jumping for joy, shouting for joy. All of those things are correlated with a really good life.
Wow. That is really, I love how that's articulated, and it's really is congruent with some of John and Julie Gottman's work around bids and turns. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah, I got trained by Gottman in 2002.
Yeah, so isn't that? Do you want to share a little bit about that? Because I think that it links back a little bit into the family or social and our need for connection, but also feeling like we matter, and those moments, those bids, those turns, and the impact of those.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like what Gottman found was that it wasn't those really dramatic conversations, those, I call them John and Marcia conversations. Oh, John, hold me in your heart forever. Oh, Marcia, I'll never let you go. Gottman thought he was going to see that when he watched couples talk. And what he found is that couples didn't talk that way. In fact, they make bids, and they're little nickel and dime small talk conversation starters. And so he calls it a bid for intimacy. And it's like, would you like cream in your coffee? That's a bid, and you can turn either toward, against, or away. And the toward turn is, if I say, would you like cream in your coffee? And you go, yeah, thanks. It's mildly positive, and it's on topic. The against is, would you like cream in your coffee? Oh, there you are again, trying to control me. Well, that's on topic, but it's negative. Mm-hmm. And then the away is, would you like cream in your coffee? And you get ignored. Or they talk about something else. Mm-hmm. Or they're looking at their phone. And what Gottman found is that those turning away conversations are the most damaging. And that great relationships are built on these nickel and dime conversations, a bid, and then a turning toward conversation. And any couple can improve their relationship by increasing the number of turning toward conversations.
Mm-hmm. And I think, as we're in this been in this lockdown period, people have become more aware of the importance of connection and community, and whether it's in a couples relationship or just with people on the planet, your neighbors, that the more we can create opportunities, I think that actually the more we can do positive bids, turns to others, is a real manifest way of being kind, and for these reasons, and how it can build that resilience. I'm just thinking how it connects with that idea of joy, and so as we help each other. As Maya Angelou talked about, people may not remember what you said or did, but they sure do notice how you make them feel.
Make them feel, absolutely.
And so, creating these is a way that we can create joy and happiness in others, but also when we do that, when people feel good around us, then they're more likely to also want to do the same for us, and so it's a win-win, and it's another, bit, it's, that goes along with those principles you have around social life and love, and so I think that we've got this whole pandemic of COVID. I always talk about how people, we don't realize that every person, everything we do, every smile we can give someone makes a difference. And as horrific as this COVID virus is, it's a huge example of how one person does matter. And, one person in a fish market now turned the whole world inside out, and unfortunately is just hurting. And a lot of people are dying and getting sick. But if we can turn that around to, if one person can make that much impact, imagine if we make choices to smile more and be kind and turn towards people in our relationships, personal, but also even with strangers. Just how powerful that could be to create more happiness and a much more large global a pandemic of happiness we can create.
It's kind of funny. I did an experiment, in my personal life. I started telling people, at the cash register as I was checking out, they'd say, "Have a nice day." And I said, "I am." Mm-hmm. And people look at me like I've got like a like a third eye. The experiment was to look at people in the eye and smile at them. And what I found is half the people looked at me like I was crazy, and the other half of the people really looked back at me and smiled. So it's an interesting experiment you can do.
That's a beautiful one. I love that. And on that note, folks, we have to finish this show. Thank you so much for joining us today, Roger.
Oh, thank you, Theresa. It's great to talk to you again.
Yes, wonderful. And I also want to thank all of you out there for tuning in today and say thank you again to our show sponsor, New Roots Herbal, for making this program possible. Be sure to join us next time when Dr. Paul Anderson is going to be with us talking about cutting-edge cancer treatments. To learn about all of our guests, Dr. Roger here, as well as all the other guests before and then those up and coming, go to the Theresa's Wellness Hub at TheresaNicassio.com. It's all free, good stuff there. I'm Theresa, and this has been the Dr. Theresa Nicassio Show. I'm holding a special place in my heart for each of you until we connect again.
There's a book that makes it so easy to embrace a healthy, gluten-free lifestyle, even kids will like it. Filled with heartwarming stories, food as medicine health tips, easy allergy-free recipes, and creative culinary inventions, the award-winning book Yum by Dr. Theresa Nicassio is your source for all of this and more. So make gluten-free living easy, tasty, and fun. Get Yum, plant-based recipes for a gluten-free diet at Amazon.com or visit yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.